everybody. It is your girl, Rose Chardonnay, and welcome to my series on cosmetology. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about hair relaxers and chemical hair straighteners. So starting with the hair relaxer, relaxers are typically used for the coiliest or kinkiest hair textures, usually type 4 hair textures, although other hair textures can use them as well. And what a relaxer does is it actually breaks down the bonds of the hair and permanently straightens the hair. The cuticle layer of the hair is completely raised, and the active ingredient, typically either sodium hydroxide or guanidine hydroxide, we'll talk about the differences with those in a moment, but that'll kind of penetrate into the inner cortex of the hair, break down the bonds of the hair, and permanently straighten the hair. So again, typically, because relaxers are probably one of the harshest chemicals that you can use in the hair, it's usually going to be best used for those that have very, very, very tightly curled hair or coily hair. Now, there's two main types of relaxers. There's lye relaxers. Those are used primarily by professionals in professional salons. And there are also no lye relaxers. Those are also used in professional salons, as well as most home kits that you'll buy at beauty supply stores or drugstores. Usually those are no lye as well. So the lye relaxers, those are going to rely on sodium hydroxide as the active ingredient, and most no lye relaxers are going to be guanidine hydroxide. So with the lye relaxers, they don't need to be mixed. They can just be used straight out of the container. Lye relaxers work very, very, very quickly. So for that reason, they're usually mostly used in professional salons. If you're really, really, really savvy with relaxing your own hair at home, and you've done it many, many times, you could try a lye relaxer. There are some online sources and some beauty supply stores that will sell you a lye relaxer even without a cosmetology license. But be careful because they work very, very quickly, and they also can be harsher on the scalp. In fact, you want to try to avoid getting the relaxer directly on the scalp as much as possible when you're applying a lye relaxer. Lye relaxers can cause scalp burns if they're applied directly to the scalp. I actually recommend basing your entire scalp if you're going to use a lye relaxer, not just the edges, not just the perimeter of your hair, but actually making small parts throughout your entire head and putting like a Vaseline or some type of scalp protector on all parts of your scalp before going in with a lye relaxer. That will really help prevent scalp burns, because scalp burns are no joke and they're not fun, and you can really cause some damage to your scalp if you don't use the lye relaxers correctly. So they do have a little bit more risk when it comes to scalp burns, and they also work really quickly. The nice thing about lye relaxers, and the reason why professionals tend to prefer lye relaxers as much as possible, is they rinse completely clean from the hair. Once you rinse and shampoo the hair, the relaxers completely rinsed clean of the hair, so it doesn't leave any mineral deposits on the hair. So your hair is going to feel a lot softer and a lot silkier than it would if you use a no lye relaxer. Now, no lye relaxers, those, like I said, usually most at-home relaxer kits usually are going to be no lye relaxers. In the salon, for those individuals that have very, very sensitive scalps or different scalp conditions, they'll use a no lye relaxer for them as well. No lye relaxers, you're going to know the difference because they're not pre-mixed like a lye relaxer. You're actually going to have to take some type of activator, either a liquid activator or a cream activator, and actually mix that in, stir that into the relaxer base. And so when you combine those two chemicals together, you basically create what's known as guanidine hydroxide, which is the active ingredient in a no lye relaxer. No lye relaxers are much gentler on the scalp. There's much less of a risk of scalp burns with no lye relaxers. So that's typically why they're used in most at-home relaxer kits. They're also, again, used in salons for individuals that just have very, very, very sensitive scalps. And they're, like I said, much less likely to cause any type of scalp burn or scalp irritation. With that said, though, there are some drawbacks with no-lye relaxers. Because they have a calcium hydroxide base, they actually leave calcium deposits in the hair, and those calcium deposits actually penetrate inside of the hair. So the hair can feel a lot more stiff and a lot more dry than it would if you use a lye relaxer, which rinses clean away, leaves your hair feeling very silky. No lye relaxers can leave the hair feeling kind of dry and stiff. There are ways to prevent that. You do want to kind of baby the hair a little bit more if you're using a no-lye relaxer. There's chelating shampoos and different clarifying treatments that you can do to kind of remove some of those mineral deposits. You're also going to probably want to do more deep conditioning treatments if you're using a no-lye relaxer. But both of those will permanently straighten the hair. Relaxers can be very damaging, especially if the hair is not in good condition to begin with, simply because they do have a very high pH level. They really break down the inner structure of the hair. Most of the time it is going to be necessary to do some type of bond building treatment or protein treatment after getting a relaxer to kind of build those bonds back up, because the bonds are completely broken down with a relaxer service. So they can be very, very damaging, but for those very, very tight, coily, curly hair textures, they are going to be your best option for permanently straightening the hair. Now, if you have slightly looser curls or a looser hair texture or more wavy hair, then you can get by with different chemical straightening. Probably the most popular one nowadays is going to be your Japanese hair straightening. Japanese hair straightening uses chemicals more similar to chemicals used in perms, primarily ammonium thioglycolate as your active ingredient. So they don't break down, they do break down the bonds of the hair, but in the neutralizing step of the process, you're actually building the bonds back up. So for that reason, they tend not to be as damaging. They don't compromise the integrity of the hair quite as much as a relaxer does, because you're building the bonds back up with the neutralizing step. So you're temporarily breaking them down, but then you're building them right back up again. So they're not quite as damaging. But with that said, they can be used on type 4 and more coily hair textures, but they're usually more recommended for slightly looser hair textures, type 2, type 3, kind of wavy, curly hair. So that's kind of the main differences between relaxers and Japanese hair straightening. So they're actually two different chemicals that produce kind of similar results. One tends to be a little bit more damaging, but is going to provide, better straightening for those tighter, coilier hair textures. Some people think with a hair relaxer, when you use the neutralizing shampoo, you're building the bonds back up. You're not. What the neutralizing shampoo is doing, and you definitely don't want to skip it, is it's actually just bringing the hair pH level back down, and it's stopping the action of the relaxer. But it's not actually building the bonds back up the way Japanese straightening does. The other nice thing about relaxers is they can be done at home or at a salon. They're significantly less expensive than Japanese hair straightening. They usually only take about an hour or two from start to finish. And whether you're doing it at a salon or at home with a relaxer kit, it's a lot quicker of a process and a lot less expensive. Japanese hair straightening is much, much, much more expensive. It costs hundreds of dollars. And you're going to probably plan on spending all day in the salon with Japanese hair straightening. It takes about 5 to 6 hours from start to finish. So you can plan on basically spending your entire day in the salon. Also, it's difficult to find at-home Japanese straightening kits, so you're really going to have no choice but to go to a salon if you want Japanese straightening. But it can be a healthier, slightly healthier option for your hair versus a relaxer. So you kind of have to weigh out the pros and cons there. So that's my video on hair relaxers, and stay tuned for more videos on this cosmetology series. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.